Part 1, The Inheritance. Chapter 1, The House on Lake Marin. The letter arrived on a Wednesday, tucked between an electric bill and a coupon booklet Claire never read. The estate office of Natalie Murray. Property transfer, 14 Lakeshore Road. Claire stared at the envelope for a full minute before opening it. Natalie Murray, she whispered. Aunt Natalie? She hadn't spoken to her father's estranged sister in nearly 20 years. The woman was a ghost in family stories, eccentric, reclusive, living alone in a lakeside village somewhere in Minnesota where the winters carved people into quieter versions of themselves. Claire unfolded the letter. We regret to inform you of the passing of Natalie Murray. As her next of kin, you have inherited her home, the Murray House, on the shore of Lake Marin, Winterview, MN. Claire set the letter down. She felt nothing. Or rather, she felt the hollow, quiet shock of a person who realizes her family is smaller than she remembered. Her phone buzzed. Dad. She hesitated, then answered. He spoke before she could breathe. You got the letter. She leaned against the counter. You knew? I knew she'd leave it to you. She had no one else. Claire swallowed. What was she like? Really like? A pause. She heard things, her father said carefully. Recordings. She claimed the house had a memory. Kept voices. She isolated herself because she scared people. Claire frowned. Dad, voices? Like she imagined them? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe. Maybe not. But selling that house would be wise. Don't linger there. Claire ended the call with the heavy sense that there was more he wasn't saying. 2 days later, she drove north. Chapter 2, Winterview Village. Winterview was small enough that Google Maps didn't provide street photos. The population sign read, 802. It reminded Claire of postcards left too long in sunlight, faded, softened at the edges. A diner. A barbershop. A row of houses with wooden porches and silent wind chimes. And at the far end, where the trees opened into a clear view of Lake Marin, stood the Murray House. Tall. Narrow. 3 stories. Dark green paint peeling in long curls. A mansard roof that dipped like a frown. It had a presence. Not menacing, just attentive, as if it had been waiting for her to arrive. Claire parked and stepped out. The lakeside wind pushed her hair back, carrying the smell of pine and distant water. The realtor waiting on the porch was a gray-haired woman named Marla Jensen. You must be Claire Murray, she said warmly. My condolences. Your aunt was complicated, but kind. Very kind. Claire shook her hand. How long has the house been empty? Marla hesitated. 3 months, she said. But some folks say they still hear a radio playing from inside. Just superstition, of course. Claire raised an eyebrow. Radio? Old house, Marla said quickly. Sound travels strangely. She unlocked the door. It creaked open. Chapter 3, The Voices in the Walls. The entry smelled faintly of dust and lemon oil. Furniture covered in sheets. Walls lined with framed photographs, except the faces in them looked blurred, as though aged by decades. Marla flicked the light. A warm, orange glow filled the living room. Your aunt didn't throw things away, Marla said lightly. There's a lifetime of belongings here. Claire stepped deeper inside. The house felt aware. Not haunted. Not threatening. Just listening. Her fingers brushed a wooden banister that rose to the second floor. It vibrated faintly, like a tuning fork settling after a distant sound. She frowned. "Is there a generator running?" she asked. "No," Marla said. "Why?" "The floor hums." Marla's smile faltered for half a second. "Old houses settle strangely," she said, voice tight. "Anyway, let me show you the attic." That's where she kept most of her things. They climbed 2 flights of stairs to the 3rd floor, where a narrow door led into the attic. The smell hit Claire instantly. Dust. Cold. Magnetic tape. Shelves lined the walls, filled with cassette tapes. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Each labeled in black ink. None with names. Just dates. Some going back to 1991. Claire whispered, "What is all this?" Marla hesitated. "Your aunt recorded things." "Like what?" "I don't know," Marla said carefully. She didn't let anyone listen. But sometimes she'd bring a tape down and say, "This is what the house heard last night." Claire felt a chill crawl along her spine. She picked up the nearest cassette. October 17, 2004, 3:12 a.m. Her thumb ran across the label. Marla checked her watch nervously. "The house runs cold after dark. I'll leave you to settle in." Claire barely heard her. Her eyes were fixed on the tapes. When Marla left and the house fell silent, Claire found an old tape recorder on a dusty trunk. She slid the tape in. Pressed play. Static. A faint hum. Then, a woman's voice. Her aunt. Soft. Breathing hard. And then, a second voice. Deep. Male. Panicked. Someone's in the house. Claire froze. The voice wasn't her aunt's. She didn't recognize it. But the fear in it was unmistakable. Her aunt whispered. "Who's there? Who are you?" A long silence. Then the man's voice again, shaking, broken. "Please. I don't know how I got here." Claire's skin tightened. She stopped the tape. Her breath echoed in the attic, suddenly too loud. Then, a soft whisper behind her. Not from the tape. From the house. Very close. "Claire." Her heart slammed. She spun around. No one. Just shadow. Dust. Silence. Then, the floor vibrated beneath her. Like something had spoken through it. Claire backed toward the attic stairs. And the light bulb flickered overhead. Once. Twice. Then went dark. She exhaled shakily and whispered into the shadow. "Aunt Natalie?" The temperature dropped. And in the dark, she heard footsteps on the floor below her. Slow. Deliberate. Not hers. Not imagined. Someone walking in her newly inherited house. Someone who didn't belong. Part 2, Playback. Chapter 4, The Tape That Knew Her Name. Claire fumbled down the attic stair in the dark, one hand sliding on the banister, the other clutching the tape recorder as if it were a lifeline. Her breath puffed white in the chill upstairs air. She could still hear the echo of the man's voice in her head. Someone in the house. Someone who didn't know how they had gotten there. She flicked the light switch on the landing. The bulb near the foyer sputtered, coughed, and held. The house exhaled cold and settled around her like an animal. Claire pressed the play button again, hands trembling. Static. The hum. Her aunt's thin whisper. Then a new sound, a woman laughing softly in the background, then a small child's voice humming a melody Claire couldn't place. A distinct click in the recording, as if someone had opened a door, and then a voice spoke so clearly she could have sworn it was there in the foyer with her. Claire. She jerked back, heart thudding, nearly throwing the recorder. The voice wasn't on the tape. It had come from nowhere, or from everywhere at once, but when she stopped the machine and leaned in the hush, the silence felt attentive. The house listened to itself. She told herself, practical and steady, that she was tired, that the long drive and the shock of inheriting a house from a woman she barely remembered were the cause. She told herself she would sleep in daylight, that the attic was an odd place to play ghostly audio. Still, part of her could not resist. She threaded another cassette into the recorder. The label read, January 4, 1997, Kitchen. The tape whirred. The recorder coughed like an ancient beast and settled. Then the unmistakable clack of dishes, a kettle screaming faintly, a chair scraping. A woman, Natalie's voice, clear and brisk. The kettle sings at dawn. Old houses always tell the truth at dawn. A low chuckle, male, followed. You believe the house, Nat? Only when people don't speak. The tape went on. Voices layered, some overlapping, until they formed a small room of sound, a kitchen that once existed and would never be rebuilt except inside magnetic tape. The voices discussed neighbors, grocery prices, the weather. They argued about a broken screen door and the high school's basketball schedule. Ordinary things. And then the conversation shifted in tone. The man said, quietly, she said she heard it again last night. Who? Natalie asked. Marta? The woman by the post office. A pause. What did she hear? A voice. Her dead husband, calling from the lake. A small intake of breath. And she packed a bag, walked out. Found her gone the next morning. She was on the shore, staring at the water. Claire's fingers tightened around the recorder. The tape continued, but the cadence had changed. This was the house telling its own catalog of strangeness, the public talk of Winterview packaged into analog memory. She slid the tape out, stomach punchy with unease. The house had been keeping receipts, not only of what happened inside but of what the town could not keep. It was a ledger of everyday life and exceptional disappearance, all cataloged and held like a ledger that never closed. She carried a stack of tapes downstairs to the kitchen. Light from the windows pale as milk filled the room, the lake glinted like a watchful thing through the bare trees. Claire sat at the long wooden table, laid the cassettes out like bones to be read. The first week, she did not leave the house much. She claimed she was settling, inventorying, that was true enough. But mostly she listened. She cataloged tapes by date, by room where the recording was made, by whether the voices were male or female, adult or child. She typed a simple spreadsheet on her laptop, date, location, voices, notes. October 17, 2004, attic, 2 voices, man panicked, woman whispers, who's there? January 4, 1997, kitchen, 3 voices, discussion of Marta, disappearance noted. May 9, 1985, diner, 2 voices, laughter, then argument, then a song. The patterns began to make themselves visible. The tapes clustered around moments of loss, of waiting, of the night air thick with something the village could not name. Many of the recordings contained mundane talk, the kind of small clarities that make a community. But threaded through them were accounts of people who left and did not come back, of radios that played songs no one in the kitchen had turned on, of the lake at midnight reflecting something that was not moonlight. On the fourth night, exhausted and likely on the edge of what might be considered obsession, Claire popped in a tape stamped April 12, 2018, living room and pressed play. Soft thunder in the background. A television murmuring. Then a woman's voice, new to her, young, measured, anxious. I told the sheriff, but he said there was no evidence. A man's voice, older, you can't make people look where they refuse to. It's not a crime if there's nothing to see. The woman answered, voice tight, but the tapes, Natalie had them. She recorded everything. She knew something. She said the house remembers when the town forgets. The older man laughed, not amused. A house remembers what people leave inside it. The woman, suddenly she was speaking very clearly now, something raw breaking through the small cadence. Then what happens when the house remembers things people want to forget? There was a long pause. The recording captured the small rustle of paper. Then, unmistakably, Claire's own voice, recorded, warm, calm, saying words she had not yet spoken aloud in the house, a phrase she had thought to herself the day she packed, I'll sort these tapes. She slammed the recorder off. The house hummed politely in the aftermath. She sat there, breath shallow, the world outside a watercolor bleached in mourning. Her hands shook as she replayed the exact 5 seconds. The recording contained no static artifact, no glitch. Claire heard her voice, unmistakably, saying the exact sentence she had whispered to herself. The date on the cassette was last month, recorded before she had driven north. She had been at work then, packing up her apartment. How? She remembered the note she had scribbled on a post-it before leaving, leave the apartment by 8, call Dad. She had not spoken aloud, had not made an audio note. Yet there it was, her voice, present in a house miles away, recorded months earlier. A ringing in her ears, the hollow clap of a world shifted slightly off its balance. She called her father. He picked up on the second ring, voice rough from sleep. You okay? He asked. She told him about the tape. He paused, then said, carefully, Natalie always said the house kept what people said regardless of who said it. She wasn't poetic, Claire. She would say it plainly, the house keeps voices. She believed it. Maybe she was right in a way we don't understand. Dad, Claire whispered, my voice is on a tape dated before I left. I was still in Minneapolis. Silence, then, there are things in small towns, Claire. Odd things that take time to explain. Don't go poking at them if you're not ready. Promise me you'll be careful. She promised, but the promise belonged to someone else. The part of her that had driven north wanted answers. The part that had left life behind craved silence and the shape of old things. Chapter 5, Winterview's Mouth. Claire ventured into Winterview on the third day. She needed supplies, and she needed to test whether the town that had been preserved on magnetic tape also existed in conversation. In the little diner, narrow, with a counter and a pot of coffee on a perpetually low flame, she sat with a cup of black and tried to look unremarkable. People watched her. Small-town gazes are a hot scan of inclusion and suspicion. Claire had inherited the Murray name. Murray meant something in Winterview, but it also meant secrets. People whispered, and the air felt like a net. New in town? The waitress asked. Her name tag read Debbie. Her eyes were kind, with the wary kindness of those who know a person's name before they speak it. A little, Claire said. I just inherited the Murray place. Debbie nodded slowly. Right up by the lake. Natalie's place. That old house, lot of folks figured it'd sell quick. You moving in for good? Claire said yes and watched the tiny set of mouths tighten. A man at the counter, who introduced himself as Reed, a mechanic with grease under his nails and a voice low as gravel, leaned in. She kept herself to herself, Reed said. Kept tapes. Old tapes. She said she saved us from forgetting. Some of us laughed. He shrugged. Some of us stopped laughing. Claire watched him. Why? What happened? Reed looked down at the counter, ran a thumb over a cup ring. Understand, Claire, he used her name with an intimate familiarity that settled oddly in her. This town remembers in ways we don't always like. People get lonely. People hear things. Folks have been missing before. Some folks leave town, sure. Others, they just aren't where they were. She asked about Marta, the woman on the tape, and Reed's face went flat. Marta's brother still comes by, he said. Sits at table 5, stares at the window. Won't talk about that night. Folks bury things. Natalie, she didn't dig the holes any shallower. She recorded them. Claire's mind replayed the tapes, the kettle, the murmur of a radio, the child humming a tune that stuck like lint in her head. The house kept conversations as if reality spilled like water and the house was the towel that absorbed the excess. People don't come to the diner much, Reed said, changing the subject. Too quiet these days. She nodded, then left with canned soup and a loaf of bread. Outside, the air felt brittle. The lake, when it showed itself through the trees, was a mirror with a habit of carrying other shapes. She walked past the post office, past the barber who waved but said nothing else when she mentioned Natalie. Whispered stories were like a seam running through Winterview. Claire had to choose whether to tug at it. Chapter 6, The Real Room. Back at the house, Claire discovered a different door beneath the stairs beside the kitchen, cleverly disguised as a pantry. A rusted knob revealed a narrow concrete stairway descending into shadow. At the bottom, a wide room, cinder block walls, metal shelves, and, in the center, a reel-to-reel machine the size of a small car. Tape reels, thick and ancient, lined racks. Whole spools, labeled in careful handwriting, documented decades of Winterview's spoken life. Large paper envelopes were annotated with times, names, and single-word descriptions. Disappeared, laugh, angry, she called. This was the Murray house's archive writ large. The attic cassettes were surface-level receipts, the basement was the ledger. She set a small reel onto the player and watched the machine inhale and exhale, teeth catching tape like a film life wound. The sound was fuller than cassettes, a room full of presence, speech bending and swelling in ways that cassettes did not. There were voices she recognized, Reed's low chuckle at a town picnic in 1999. Debbie's laugh, thin and bright as a bell, in 2013. Sometimes the tape held a single voice for long stretches, a woman counting stitches while her radio played a hymn. Sometimes entire meetings unfurled, a PTO debate about the fall festival, the sheriff reading outgoing reports. And then one reel slowed, the human breath on it wobbling like a far-off engine. The voice on that reel was clear, Natalie Murray, speaking into a bare microphone. The house listens, she said. I record to remember what the town would rather not. Maybe I am greedy. Maybe I am selfish. But if the house will keep what we lose, I will fill it with what we say. There was a long pause. Then she spoke again, quieter, softer. If anyone listens back, be kind. Claire pressed her hand flat to the cool concrete wall, feeling the hum transmit through stone. The archives showed a woman who had kept Winterview's breath. But what had she done with it? Why had she hoarded voices the way other people hoard trinkets? She made a decision then. Not entirely brave, nor entirely reckless, but the sort of decision that stitches story together. She would listen to everything she could. She would catalog. She would ask questions. She would record her own voice if the house had a habit of speaking about people before they came. She pulled a fresh reel from the shelf, a blank spool, unused, and labeled it with a neat black marker. Claire Murray, beginning, February 10, 2025. She sat at the machine and spoke into the microphone. Her voice sounded foreign in the cool basement. This is Claire Murray. I am the niece of Natalie Murray. I have inherited this house. I am cataloging these tapes to understand what is recorded, why, and for whom. If you are listening, introduce yourself. She clicked stop and rewound the reel, and for the first time, the house was listening to her on its own terms. When she played it back, through the thick warm coils of the machine, her voice returned to her slightly delayed, familiar and strange, like an echo that had taken shape. It was proof that she could anchor herself, that the house could be coaxed into a relationship. But when she cut the playback and rose from the chair, she found a single cassette on the work table she had not touched before. On the cassette was her name, handwritten in a hand that was not Natalie's, not hers, but neat and small. Claire, you'll want to hear this. M. She stared at it, sudden electricity prickling the back of her neck. Someone had left a message. Someone had expected her. She turned the cassette over, fingers clumsy as if they were touching something alive. The house hummed, patient and full of the sound of 1,000 untold sentences. Claire put the cassette in the recorder. She pressed play. The voice that came through was not her own. It was a man's voice, low and steady. If you're hearing this, you're probably already in the house, the man said. Good. Listen carefully. Don't listen to it alone. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. The cassette was a breath handed forward. Someone in Winterview had left her a warning. Someone who knew the Murray house well enough to leave directions where Natalie had left tapes and lids. She slid the cassette out with trembling skin and looked at the basement door, up at the long stair to the house, at the lake beyond, and at the photograph on the mantel of a woman who had spent years recording what Winterview forgot. The house, so quiet, seemed to tilt its head. And Claire realized she had no choice anymore. She had come home to a house that kept voices, and those voices kept secrets that were not going to stay buried. Part 3, The Man Who Left a Warning. Chapter 7, The Voice on the Cassette. The cassette felt warm. Claire told herself it was just the friction of rewinding, but the sensation lingered, almost like a small living thing rested in her palm. She took it upstairs, away from the deep hum of the real room. The kitchen felt safer, brighter, less crowded by unseen memories. She set the recorder on the counter, inhaled sharply, pressed play. Static. A soft inhale. Then the man's voice, steady, even-toned, like someone who had trained himself not to panic. If you're hearing this, Claire, you've already triggered the house. Claire froze. Her pulse quickened. triggered? The voice continued. Don't blame yourself. It happens to anyone who listens too long. The house keeps people the way others keep journals. It records the pieces we lose, sometimes before we lose them. Claire felt the hairs rise along her neck. The voice wasn't familiar. Not Reed. Not the sheriff from the tapes. Not anyone she'd met in the diner. Yet the man spoke as though he knew exactly what she'd done. As though he'd been watching her catalog the attic tapes, listening to the real archive, examining her own voice's impossible appearance on a prior recording. I'm leaving this because I think you'll do what Natalie couldn't. A pause. A crackle. You'll listen, all the way through. Claire gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. The voice lowered. But don't do it alone. Not if you want to keep yourself intact. She flinched. The wording echoed Natalie's writing style from years ago, cryptic, metaphorical, as if danger was a poem only some people could hear. The man added, If you want answers, find me before the house does. Claire whispered into the empty kitchen. Find you where? As if in reply, the tape gave a tiny glitch, a stretch of warped audio, then a barely audible whisper. Doc, sundown. Then silence. Claire rewound. Played again. Same whisper. Same warning. And after that, a fistful of distorted sound, voices layered too thickly to parse. Children laughing. A man shouting. Metal scraping on concrete. Water. A woman singing in an old, trembling voice. It didn't feel like recording. It felt like a place. The kitchen light flickered once. Then steadied. Claire pressed stop. The house felt as if it had leaned in behind her shoulder. She didn't turn around. Chapter 8, The Library of Unspoken Things. The next morning, Claire walked into Winterview's public library, small, wood-paneled, built like a church that had forgotten its prayers. A bell jingled at the door. Behind the circulation desk sat a man with silver hair and deep smile lines. The name tag. Mac Holloway, librarian. He looked up. Morning, Miss Murray, he said smoothly, as if he'd been waiting. Claire startled. How did you? Word travels. He tapped the counter. Winterview's like that. She approached cautiously. I'm looking for information on my aunt, Claire said. Local history. Records. Anything old. Mac studied her for a shade too long. What kind of information? He asked. Claire hesitated, thinking of the tapes, the man's voice, the attic. About people going missing, she said finally. Mac didn't blink. You're not the first to ask, he murmured. Natalie asked. And someone else before her. Claire leaned closer. Who? Her friend, Mac said. A man named Michael Penn used to live here years back. Claire's breath caught. Michael. She thought of the cassette labeled simply M. The handwriting on the note, you'll want to hear this. Is he still here? She asked quickly. Mac sighed. He's complicated. That was not an answer. Claire's tone sharpened. Does he work somewhere in town? Does he come to the library? No, Mac said gently. He doesn't come inside anymore. Then where is he? The librarian's eyes softened. He stays near the lake. A cold shiver ran beneath her ribs, remembering the whisper. Doc, sundown. But before she could ask more, Mac leaned forward and lowered his voice. Claire, He whispered, "Before you listen to any more tapes, you need to understand one thing about Winterview." She nodded, pulse tight. "The town forgets." He tapped his temple. "People don't remember everything they lose. But the house? It never forgets. It keeps what we abandon." Claire whispered, "Why?" "No one knows," Max said. "Some say it's cursed. Some say it's conscious." Natalie believed it was a vault, for voices, for stories, for confessions we couldn't carry. He paused. "But vaults lock both ways." A chill ran through Claire. Max slid a folder across the desk. "For your aunt," he said softly. "And for you." Inside, old newspaper clippings, missing person reports, a photo of Natalie smiling under a tree, a scribbled journal entry. Claire read the single line circled in ink. "The house remembers what the lake takes." Her stomach tightened. Lake Marin. The tapes. The missing residents. The man's warning. Everything pointed in the same direction. Chapter 9, The Dock at Sundown. Sundown turned Lake Marin into a sheet of shifting copper. Claire walked slowly down the creaking wooden dock, breath forming small ghosts in the fading light. Ducks cut quiet arcs through the water. The trees whispered. She expected emptiness. She was wrong. A figure stood at the far end of the dock, a man wearing a long coat, hood low, hands deep in pockets, posture straight but heavy with age or worry. Her pulse surged. "Michael?" she called. He didn't turn. Claire stepped closer. "Michael Penn?" Finally he spoke. "You shouldn't have listened to the tapes alone." His voice. It was the voice from the cassette. Claire's heart clenched. "You knew my aunt," she said shakily. "I knew about your aunt," he corrected. "And I knew the house better than most." He finally turned enough for her to see the edge of his face, long lines, dark eyes, a man who carried regret the way others carried umbrellas. Claire swallowed. "Why did you warn me?" "Because once the house hears you," Michael said, "it begins to anticipate you." Claire stiffened. "Anticipate?" "The house collects voices," he said. "But sometimes, it projects them. Gives them back before they exist. Echoes out of order." Claire felt faint. "My voice was on a tape dated before I got here." Michael nodded grimly. "Exactly. Why?" "Because the house knew you would come," he said. "It knew you would speak those words someday. So it recorded them early. It fills in blanks. It completes patterns." Claire remembered her father's warning, "Don't poke things you're not ready to understand." Michael stepped closer. "There's something else," he said. "Something more dangerous." Claire forced her voice steady. "What?" His eyes reflected the dying light. "The house doesn't just keep voices. It keeps people." Claire's breath stopped. Michael continued, voice low. "Some never left. Some never could." They walked into the house one day and walked out as echoes, recorded, remembered, but missing from the world. Claire's hand shook around her coat sleeve. "You're telling me people disappeared inside my aunt's house?" "I'm telling you the house doesn't let go," he replied. "It doesn't like unfinished stories." The wind rippled the lake. A distant loon cried. Claire stepped closer. "Why are you helping me?" Michael exhaled slowly. "Because I tried to help Natalie once," he said. "And I failed." Claire's voice cracked. What happened to her? Michael's face tightened. She found a tape she wasn't supposed to play. Claire's stomach flipped. What was on it? Michael stared at her, a long, painful stare heavy with warning. Her own voice, describing her last day alive. Claire staggered back. That's impossible. Michael shook his head. That house breaks the order of time, he said. It pulls the future into the present, and plays it as memory. Claire felt cold seep into her bones. And now, Michael said quietly, it's doing the same to you. Claire suddenly felt watched. From the trees. From the lake. From the house behind her. Your name, he added softly, has already appeared on tapes dated years before today. Claire swallowed hard. What do they say? Michael hesitated. Then, they describe you walking toward the lake at night. The wind died. Silence. Claire whispered, do I come back? Michael looked away. He didn't answer. Because the answer was either too horrible to speak, or too uncertain to offer. Chapter 10, The First Echo. Claire hurried back to the Murray house, chest aching, fingers numb. Her breath fogged in frantic plumes. She didn't bother turning lights on, she just burst through the door and slammed it behind her. The house hummed gently. Listening. Expectant. Claire paced the entryway like an animal cornered by something it couldn't see. Then, a thump. From upstairs. Claire froze. Another thump, heavier, like a footstep on old hardwood. Slowly, deliberately, moving toward the stairs. Her breath held. The house was empty. She was sure of that. Another thump. Then a whisper drifting down to her. Impossibly soft, but clear. Claire. Her pulse threatened to burst. Was it Michael? No, voice too young. Was it her aunt? No, tone too flat. She inched toward the stairs. Hello, she called. Another whisper. Come, here. Something about the cadence. The faint echo. The precise inflection. Made Claire's stomach drop. It was her own voice. A perfect mimic. Not from a cassette. Not from a speaker. From upstairs. From a place she had not walked yet. Claire backed away, breath broken. Stop, she rasped. The steps paused. Then the whisper shifted. You're late. Claire bolted for the front door. But the lights flickered. The floor thrummed. The doorknob vibrated like something pressed against it from the other side. Not human. Not alive. Just memory. Raw. Unfiltered. Misordered. She stumbled back. Her shoe brushed something on the floor. She looked down. Another cassette. Unlabeled. Fresh. Still warm. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She carried it to the recorder. Pressed play with a forearm slick with fear. Static. A breath. Then. This is Claire Murray, the recording said. Her blood froze. If anyone finds this. I'm at the lake. I think the house wants me to. The recording cut off. Claire staggered backward. No. 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 Her future was speaking to her now. The house had begun collapsing time again. The same way it did with Natalie. Someone moved upstairs again. Slow. Patient. Waiting. Claire gasped. Because she suddenly understood the most terrifying truth Michael hinted at. The house wasn't predicting her future. It was trying to cause it. Part 4, Echoes That Walk. Chapter 11, The Voice That Should Not Exist. The tape recorder clicked off. Claire stood frozen in the dark foyer of the Murray house, listening to her own voice drift faintly from the machine. I'm at the lake. I think the house wants me to. Then silence. Incomplete. Cut short. Like something interrupted her, in a future that hadn't happened yet. No, Claire whispered. This isn't real. This can't be real. But upstairs, the footsteps resumed. Heavy, deliberate, pacing along the hallway she had not yet explored. Her future self on a tape. Her present self in the foyer. Something upstairs wearing her voice like a coat that didn't fit. Claire backed toward the kitchen. And the footsteps stopped. Then, a whisper floated down the stairwell. Come upstairs. I'm waiting. The same voice. Her voice. But wrong. Flattened. Hollow. Like something imitating sound without breath. Claire's throat tightened. She clutched the nearest object, an old metal flashlight, and stepped toward the stairs because fear pulled her backward, but curiosity, the dangerous kind, pulled her forward. Halfway up, the temperature dropped so sharply her breath came out in fog. Her hand shook on the rail. At the top of the steps, the hallway stretched like a throat-swallowing light. A figure stood at the far end. Shadowed. Still. Her height. Her posture. Her silhouette. Claire's breath hitched. Hello, she whispered. The figure tilted its head. Exactly the way Claire tilted hers when confused. Claire's legs weakened. Are you, me? She asked. The figure stepped forward into a slice of moonlight. Her heart stopped. It had her outline. Her hair. Her shoulders. But no face. Just a smooth surface, like a half-formed reflection on water. Yet when it opened its mouth, her voice came out. You already know where this ends. Claire stumbled back. Stay away. The figure didn't move. It pointed toward the window instead. Behind it, beyond the glass, Lake Marin glistened under the moon. And through the pane, Claire saw a second figure standing on the frozen shore. Far away. Still. Watching the house. A man. Michael? No. The posture was wrong. Claire blinked. The figure vanished. When she looked back down the hallway, the faceless echo was gone, too. The air warmed a little. But the message had been delivered. The house was no longer content to play her voice. It was starting to use her voice. To draw her toward the lake. To complete a story she had not chosen. Chapter 12, The Conversation with a Stranger Who Already Knew Her. The next morning, Claire found herself wandering into town, not trusting the silence of the house behind her. She found Reed, grease-stained forearms, worn flannel coat, repairing an old pickup outside his garage. He looked up as she approached. You look like hell, he said without cruelty. I didn't sleep. I'd bet a month's salary on it. Claire hesitated, then said bluntly, Reed, do you know anyone who went to the lake and didn't come back? His wrench froze mid-turn. That's not something people ask directly around here, he said softly. Why not? He sighed. Because too many fit the story. Claire swallowed. How many? Reed wiped his hands, thinking. My cousin Andrew went missing in '03. Left the diner one night, never reached home. He pointed toward the water. Search party found his jacket near the lake. Water was still. Too still. Claire shivered. Anyone else? Old man Dalka, Reed said. Used to fish at dawn. One morning, just didn't come back. A pause. And Sarah Bennett. Sweet kid. 14. Heard her talking about noises from the lake. Never saw her again. Claire felt her throat close. Why didn't anyone tell me, she whispered. Reed fixed her with a tired stare. Because Winterview doesn't admit its ghosts to strangers. I'm not a stranger, Claire said, voice breaking. My aunt lived here. He studied her face. No, he said quietly. You're not a stranger. You're a Murray. That doesn't matter. It matters, Reed insisted. Because the Murray house saw things before anyone else did. And those tapes. He stopped. Claire stepped closer. What about them? Reed took a slow breath. Some folks think your aunt recorded more than voices. Another breath. They think she recorded the missing. Claire felt cold race through her bones. You're saying the people who disappeared left their voices behind, Reed finished softly. And some believe the house collects them. Keeps them. Makes them linger. Claire steadied herself. Reed, she whispered, how many tapes are there exactly? He shook his head. No one knows. Your aunt was recording for 30 years. Claire's knees weakened. 30 years. Thousands of voices. People who disappeared. People who grieved them. People who whispered their secrets. And the house kept all of them. Reed's tone softened. Claire, why are you asking this? She looked toward Lake Marin, glimmering ominously between pines. Because, she said, I think the house is expecting me to join them. Chapter 13, The Archivist Who Doesn't Sleep. Claire didn't return home right away. She went back to the library. Mac Holloway looked up with his gentle, exhausted smile. I wondered if I'd see you again. Claire sat down hard. Mac, you said the town forgets. And the house remembers what the lake takes. What does that mean? He folded his hands. It means Winterview has always had missing pieces, Mac murmured. Like a book with pages torn out. People disappear. Stories get quiet. Grief becomes something private. And the lake? Claire pressed. He looked out the window, toward the slow, peaceful water. Lake Marin is deeper than it should be, he said softly. Geologists couldn't map the bottom. Every sonar reading comes back distorted. Some say it's just the soil. I don't think it's the soil. Claire's breath hitched. Mac, did you ever hear voices from the lake? He hesitated. Then nodded. When I was 17, he said. After my brother died. I heard him call my name from the water. Clear as day. I went to the shore and every hair on my body stood up. He shivered. But I didn't walk in. That's the difference. I didn't walk in. Claire's voice trembled. Mac, what is happening to me? He gave her a sad, weighty glance. You're doing what Natalie did, he said. You're listening too closely. Claire's breath grew thin. Mac reached under the counter and slid a folder toward her. I found this in our old archives, he said. Town records from the 70s. It belonged to the man who lived in the Murray house before your aunt. Claire opened it with numb fingers. A name scrawled across the top page. Henry Tollan. Her eyes widened. Who is this? Mac lowered his voice. The first archivist. The one who built the basement real room. Claire felt blood drain from her face. He disappeared in 1979, Mac said. No body. Just vanished. And the police searched the house. Every floor. Every room. A pause. But not a single tape from his years was ever found. Claire whispered. They're still there. Mac nodded. In the house. Claire swallowed. And you think he? Yes, Mac said gently. I think Henry Tollan was the first voice the house kept. Chapter 14, Return to the House That Watches. By evening, Claire forced herself back into the Murray house. The door creaked open as though greeting her. Or warning her. Either way, the house seemed relieved she'd come back. The foyer was warm instead of cold this time. The draft was gone. Almost welcoming. She hated that. She stepped inside carefully. I know you want something from me, she said aloud, voice shaking. But I'm not your archivist. I'm not here to finish someone else's work. The lights flickered. Not violently. Just once. In acknowledgement. She swallowed. I'm going downstairs. The hallway seemed to nod. She descended to the real room with a flashlight clenched in her hand. The machine waited. Huge, metal, breathing gently under fluorescent flicker. She approached the shelves, looking for dates around 1979. Nothing. Then a gap. Tollan's entire archive missing. Claire exhaled shakily. Then, she noticed something strange. A shelf of reels with no labels. Dozens of them. Unmarked. Dust thick on top. Her pulse surged. She lifted one carefully. Loaded it onto the machine. Pressed play. Static. Then a sound like someone inhaling underwater. Claire's skin prickled. A voice emerged. Low. Wet. Strained. Is anyone there? Claire nearly dropped the microphone. She leaned closer, heart racing. Hello, she whispered into the real room. The voice trembled. The light, please, turn the light back. Claire froze. She whispered. Henry? The reel whined. A sound like whispering water filled the room. Too dark, can't find the steps. Claire clutched her shirt. Henry Tollan, can you hear me? A faint sob came through the speakers. I didn't mean to go, the house opened, and then... Claire felt tears sting her eyes. What happened to you? She asked softly. The reel wavered. The voice cracked. I fell through the floor. The voices pulled. So many voices. I couldn't get back. Claire whispered. Henry, where are you? The reel hissed. And then, plainly. The lake. Claire staggered back. No. It couldn't be. She leaned forward, trembling. Are you alive? She whispered. The voice replied. I'm still speaking. Isn't that enough? Claire covered her mouth. He wasn't alive. Not in flesh. But his voice was alive. Contained. Preserved. Trapped. Held by the house. And then his voice sharpened. Urgent, terrified. Claire, don't let it finish recording you. The machine groaned. Lights flickered. Something thumped upstairs. Henry's voice rose. Leave. Leave now. The reel screamed with distortion. The room went black. Claire fumbled blindly for the stairs, breath ragged, heart battering her ribs. Because she understood now. The house didn't just remember the missing. It incorporated them, replayed them, kept them. And now, it had started recording her. Part 5, The Weight of Echoes. Chapter 15, When the House Finishes a Sentence for You. Claire slammed the basement door shut behind her and stumbled back into the dim kitchen. Her breath came out in choked bursts. The house seemed to thrum with a deep, low vibration, like someone humming through the walls. She whispered, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" The humming softened. Not gone. Just patient. She pressed both palms to her temples. Henry Tolland's voice still echoed in her skull. Don't let it finish recording you. But what did that mean? She paced slowly, gripping the counter for balance. Her mind replayed the final moments before the blackout. Henry's panic. The distortion. The sudden grip of cold. And the most chilling part. I fell through the floor. A metaphor? A hallucination? Or literal? Claire took a shaky breath and whispered to no one. The house can't record something that hasn't happened yet. But the cassette from earlier proved otherwise. The tape that captured her future voice. Her incomplete warning at the lake. The house was not simply remembering the past. It was anticipating, predicting, pulling the future into the present like thread snagged on a nail, and finishing sentences she hadn't spoken yet. Just then, the lights flickered. A faint whisper drifted down from upstairs. Still here, good. Claire froze. It wasn't her voice this time. It was softer, higher, childlike. But the tone, like someone relieved she didn't run. The floor above creaked. Claire backed into the living room, heart screaming. No, she whispered. No, no, no. A soft tap 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 echoed down the stairwell. Like small fingers drumming on wood. Then, don't leave yet. Claire's knees buckled. A child's voice. In her house. At night. She grabbed her coat and fled out the front door before she could lose her nerve. The cold slapped her face, grounding her. She ran toward town. Chapter 16, Michael Penn's Confession. She found Michael sitting on a bench behind the diner, hood low, face shadowed, staring at the lake like it might speak to him. It probably had. He didn't look surprised to see her. He simply said, "You heard him." Claire collapsed beside him, shaking. "Henry, he's still." Michael nodded. "Yes." Claire swallowed hard. "And the house, it nearly took me." Michael let the silence sit between them. Finally, he said, "It tried to take me too." Claire stared. "Why didn't you tell me that?" Michael inhaled slowly, as if dragging the truth from a locked room. "I used to live in that house," he said. "Years ago. I worked with Natalie. We were trying to catalog winter views, anomalies." "Anomalies?" Claire whispered. "Disappearing people. Voices in the lake. The house replaying conversations that never happened." He rubbed his face. I thought it was an acoustic marvel. Some strange echo phenomenon. But it wasn't, Claire said. Michael looked at her with a haunted expression. No. It was alive. Claire's chest tightened. Michael continued. The house doesn't make voices. It collects them. People talk near it, and it stores everything. But over time, it starts to confuse recalling with reaching. He shuddered. It recorded my voice from days I hadn't lived yet. I heard myself begging for help on recordings dated a month before I even touched a tape. So you left, Claire said. No. He laughed bitterly. I tried to, but the house didn't let me. It started mimicking me. Claire froze. Like a double, she whispered. Michael's jaw clenched. Yes. A shadow of me. A version without a face. It followed me from room to room. It whispered my own thoughts back at me before I had them. Claire felt nausea rise. That thing upstairs. Michael nodded grimly. It's not a ghost. And it's not your future self. It's the house trying to become you. Claire nearly retched. He added quietly. There's only one way out of the house once it chooses you. Claire whispered, How did you escape? Michael's eyes darkened. I didn't. He swallowed. Natalie pulled me out. She dragged me out the back door while my echo was still walking toward me. Claire felt cold flood her limbs. What happened to the echo? Michael stared at the lake. It walked into the basement. A hollow pause. And the house kept it. Chapter 17, The Lake's First Truth. Claire hugged herself tightly. What is the lake? She whispered. Michael exhaled slowly. The house and the lake aren't separate. Haven't you noticed? Claire frowned. Noticed what? The humidity in the basement. The wetness in the tapes. The real machine rusted only at the bottom edges. Claire's breath caught. The house is feeding from the lake, Michael said. Or the lake is feeding through the house. They're linked. One collects voices. The other keeps. He hesitated. Whatever is left of the people those voices belong to. Claire stared at the dark water. You mean? Michael nodded. The missing people? They aren't gone. Not completely. The lake is holding them the way the house holds their voices. Claire whispered. Then Henry Tollan. He's in both, Michael said softly. Part of him in the lake. Part of him trapped in the tape. Claire's knees trembled. And my aunt, she whispered. Is Natalie? Michael didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Claire felt tears burn her eyes. She looked at the lake again. And froze. A figure stood on the far shore. Motionless. Watching. Tall. Thin. Inhumanly still. Michael, Claire whispered. I see it, he said quietly. The figure stepped forward. And its feet did not splash into the water. It glided over the surface. Claire's breath died in her lungs. The figure blurred at the edges, like something half-recorded. Then, in Claire's voice, but much softer, it called. Come back to the house. Claire staggered backward. No. No. Michael grabbed her arm. Don't answer it. But the thing called again. You left too early. Come finish your recording. Claire trembled violently. Michael pulled her away, voice fierce. It isn't you. It's an echo. Claire cried out. Why does it want me? Michael stopped. His eyes held impossible sadness. Because the house is replacing what it lost, he whispered. It kept Natalie. Now it wants you. Claire choked. No. I'm not. It doesn't care who you are, Michael said. Only that you are unfinished. The echo on the lake continued stepping toward the shore. Each step leaving no ripple. Michael pulled her toward town, gripping her hand. We need to move. Now. But as they turned, a whisper drifted across the lake. Claire, you're late. The same phrase the echo upstairs had spoken. Claire's vision blurred with fear. Michael dragged her away. But Claire looked back once more. Just in time to see the echo's head tilt slowly, almost curiously. And its form dissolve into a rising mist that began drifting toward the Murray house. Chapter 18, What Natalie Murray Saw Before She Died. Michael and Claire ran until they reached the outskirts of Winterview again. They stopped near the abandoned general store, lungs burning. Claire leaned against a wall, gasping. Why is it chasing me? Why now? Michael wiped sweat from his brow. Because you listened, he said. Every voice you heard made you part of the archive. The house is stitching you into its story. Claire's voice trembled. I don't want to be part of its story. Michael's eyes darkened. Natalie said the same thing. Claire looked up sharply. What did she see before she died, Michael? Tell me everything. Michael swallowed. She saw herself. Claire felt ice crawl up her spine. No. Yes, Michael said gravely. She saw an echo of herself walking out of the lake at night. It called her name. Claire covered her mouth. She told me the house had already recorded her death, Michael continued. She heard herself on tapes dated years in the future, describing how she died. Claire's eyes burned. What did the tapes say? That she walked into the lake. Claire shook her head violently. No. No. I'm not doing that. I won't. Michael grabbed her shoulders. Then we have to break the pattern. How? Michael took a deep breath. We have to destroy the archive. Claire stared. You mean, burn the tapes? No, he said. Burning them won't stop the house. We need to destroy the real room itself. The machine. The storage. The entire system that holds the voices. Claire's breath shuddered. And if we do that? Michael hesitated. Then the house will lose its memory, he said. It will lose its hold on you. On everyone. Claire swallowed hard. And Henry? Natalie? The missing people? Michael's face twisted with grief. They'll be lost forever. No voices left. No echoes. Claire's chest tightened. They're already gone. Michael nodded slowly. Yes. But right now they're trapped. Destroying the archive frees them, by ending them. Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks. And me? You'll be free too. A long silence. Finally, Claire whispered. And what if we fail? Michael met her eyes. Then the house keeps you. And Winterview forgets you existed. Claire took a long, shaking breath. Looked toward the Murray house silhouetted against the night sky. Then whispered. Let's end this. Part 6, Night of Unmaking. Chapter 19, Jewels and Promises. They met at dusk behind the diner, two silhouettes against a sky-bruised violet. Reed left them with a duffel bag and an old bolt cutter. Janice, who'd come because she couldn't stand the thought of Claire going alone, pressed a leather-bound notebook into Claire's hands. Mac had arranged for the sheriff to be out of town, quietly promising the two of them enough time before anyone realized what they were doing. Claire's hands trembled as she zipped the duffel closed. Inside, a crowbar, a hammer, a roll of heavy tape, a propane torch in a metal case, Reed's idea, and a can of industrial solvent he'd insisted might neutralize the oily residue the reels left behind. "Once you start that room, there's no turning back," Reed said in a voice that tried to be gruff and came out small. "You can't half do this." Claire looked at Michael. He held her eyes for a long moment, his jaw set, fatigue and something almost like peace had settled on him. "If we do it," he said, "we do it clean. No sentimental saves. No keeping copies. We break the machine and we remove the spools. Burn what we can't haul out. If the house wants to fight, we pull everything out into daylight." "And if it asks for blood?" Janice asked. Her notebook clutched to her chest. Michael's answer was quiet and direct, "Then we choose who pays. Not the town. Not strangers." Claire's stomach dropped. She hated the implication of the words, and yet the gravity of the night left no space for cowardice. She remembered Henry's crackled voice in the basement, "Don't let it finish recording you." She had been recorded describing the lake. She had tasted the future on magnetic tape. This was her hand at the ledger, this was her chance to stop being the subject of a story something else was writing. They walked up the driveway in a small cluster, Claire, Michael, Janice, Reed, each holding some part of the plan and the fear. The house watched from the dark yard, windows like eyes. A faint current of air moved toward them as if the house exhaled. The front door was unlocked, as if it had expected them. They stepped inside. Chapter 20, The House Acts. The Murray house no longer greeted them like a building. It moved around them the moment the door clicked shut. The hallway seemed narrower. The low-hung Claire had learned to ignore rose and pitch, not the static of a machine but the quick soprano of many voices overlaying one another until they made an instrument. The light bulbs overhead popped in sympathy and relit, steady but lower, as if the house dimmed the world to hear better. They crept toward the basement two at a time. Reed and Janice took point on the stairwell while Claire and Michael moved with the real machine plan in their heads. A page flipped on a table. A photograph slid slightly as though someone, unseen, had nudged it. Voices layered in the corridor, a trickle of childhood conversations, an old fight about money, someone humming the exact lullaby Claire's mother had sung ages ago. The sound was intimate, and that intimacy was dangerous. The house knew how to lure, it gave you the perfect piece of tenderness just before it asked for your attention. Claire felt her steps slow. From the living room, a little girl's laugh skittered out, bright, mechanical, coming from nowhere in particular. Janice flinched. "Don't go alone," Michael murmured, and they kept moving. By the time they reached the steel door of the real room, the house's voice had settled into a single low tone, almost prayerful. The metal door resisted as Reed shoved the crowbar into the seam. The lock clicked under pressure and the door swung open with a sound like glass breaking. The real room smelled of cold iron and old water. The reels gleamed in the dim light like the eyes of long-closed machines. Spools stood stacked on racks, Hundreds, maybe thousands, each carrying tiny coils of people's evenings, confessions, and small, ordinary cruelties. The machine itself loomed in the center, the thick hub that had ingested decades of Winterview. Claire's hand went to the microphone on the console as if to check that it was possible to still speak through the machine. It thrummed faintly under her palm, alive with other people's breaths. Reed set the torch carefully. Michael started working systematically. They had a plan: remove the primary drive belts, heat the joints so the casings would distend, pull the spools and toss them toward the daylight. Burn what couldn't move. Smash the reels you couldn't move hard enough. If that was messy, they accepted it. The first spool came loose with a reluctant groan. It rolled across the concrete like a severed eye and hit the floor with a dull thud. The machine drew a breath as if in pain. On the reels, voices rose all at once. A chorus of names, and within the cascade Claire heard Henry Tolland's voice, not as a recording this time, but raw, then layered and then echoing. "Don't leave me here. Don't." The voices grew louder, not in the speakers but in the room itself. The air thickened. Threads of cold moved across the concrete and reached for the spinning tape like pale fingers. Janice screamed, small and human, as one of the coils unspooled on its own and slithered like a wet rope toward the wall. Reed shoved it back with the crowbar, but the tape lashed and wriggled like animal skin. The voices on the spools didn't just speak, they tried to form syllables in the dark, and slowly, like rainfall, those syllables shaped into something you could touch. The first echo took shape. It began as a haze above the floor, a smudge of sound that condensed like breath in the winter air. Then lines became limbs. Then a head. Not human exactly, but with a silhouette like a man hunched at a desk. The figure stepped off the floor as if it had always stood there and took one unsteady, careful step. Henry's voice was everywhere. Claire's heart nearly stopped. The echo's face was indistinct but familiar, a suggestion of features where tape had recorded anger, laughter, fear. "Bat!" Michael shouted, and his voice cut through the room. The echo turned its head. It looked at them with a pity that felt worse than hate. Then it walked forward, slow and deliberate, hands outstretched as if pleading. Claire felt an almost maternal grief at the sight. This thing, shaped from recordings and lost years, reached for them because it could not hold itself together. It wanted completion, to be touched, to be known, maybe to be undone. Reed swung the crowbar. Metal met the shimmer and bounced like striking fog. It did not break the echo. The figure dissolved into a snow of static and reformed across the racks, this time as two figures entangled. Voices layered and stacked until the room was a hive. "We can't destroy them with force," Janice cried. "They're made of the same sound that made them." Michael's face was a map of decisions he had to make fast. "Then we break the machine." He kicked the access panel open and reached for a thick cable that fed the motor. Sparks hissed as his fingers hit the conduit. "You'll get electrocuted," Reed warned. "I'll short it," Michael said. "It'll stop the motor. It might sever their link." Claire's breath trembled in her chest. "Michael." He looked at her like he'd been looking at her all night, with the steadiness of someone who'd already made a choice. "If this binds them here," he said, "they deserve at least that, release." He yanked the cable free. The lights flared. Reels screamed not in the speakers but in the air, a keening that made Claire think of wind in chimneys. The echoes rose like a flock startled. The motor stuttered and died. Silence slammed into the room so thoroughly that it felt like a hand on her throat. For a breath, nothing moved. Then something else happened, quieter, but somehow lonelier. The echoes halted their violent undulations and collapsed, not into nothing but into softer shapes, like paper folding into itself. Henry's voice, gone from the roar, became a small, imploring breath. "Thank you." Claire wanted to cry. Relief and terror braided so tight around her chest that she could hardly breathe. They moved fast. Reels went into crates, hands shook as they carried spool after spool into the daylight. They poured solvent over tape reels to render them useless and stacked what would not burn near the doorway for later incineration. The reel room's machine hissed like a beast deprived of blood, but its teeth still gnawed at reality. Claire thought of the house as a mouth. If you smashed a jaw, it would still be able to bite until the muscles gave out. Everything they carried out they heaped on metal grates at the back of the house. Reed readied the torch. They did not burn the reels in the basement. They took them outside, into the night, where the sky swallowed heat and memory and where the wind could carry ash away. Claire struck the torch. Flame licked at the first pile of tape. The reels hissed and the voices rose in one last, terrible chorus. Faces formed in the smoke, half seen, pleading, bitter, relieved. And then they sank. The reels blackened. The voices thinned. It felt like watching a crowd walk away from a storm. The house itself shook, and a sound like something enormous shifting inside the walls made the windows tremble. Claire felt sick to her stomach, but she also felt a cold, practical lightness, like a knot loosening. They thought they'd done it. They began to breathe. They began to move toward the door. Chapter 21, The Price of the Break. The house never gives up its bargains without collecting. As they turned to leave, the metal grate beneath them folded inward like a trapdoor. The ground threw them off balance. The backyard, where they'd stacked the burning reels, suddenly looked different. The bonfire had not consumed the tape as they expected. Instead, the reels had pulled themselves back together as if the house rewove what was burned. Smoke rose, but thicker, like black fog. From the mound, a figure emerged, whole and ridiculous in its completeness. A woman's silhouette, small, carrying the precise tilt of Natalie's habitual posture, the gesture Claire had seen in old photographs. The woman's face was close enough that Claire could have touched it and felt the warmth of breath. "Natalie?" Claire whispered. The woman tilted her head. "No," the echo said, but her voice was Natalie's voice, stitched with the cadence of the lake and the metal of the machine. "You burn the noise, you burn the skin." The echo's smile was not a smile at all. "Do you want to be recorded wrong?" The sound of a siren rose faintly in the distance. Someone had called, despite the sheriff's absence. The house used every small intrusion as bait. It wanted them to stay and talk. It wanted them to explain. It wanted to be persuaded not to die. Michael stepped forward, deliberate, and raised his hand. "We end this tonight," he said. "No bargaining." The echo Natalie laughed, and the laugh was the sound of tape unspooling. "Then give me a voice to keep." The air wrapped around Michael in a way that made Claire's guts knot. The machine had not entirely been broken. Something in its core had snapped the cables, but the house had leverage. It could harvest a living voice in exchange. It could fill the empty reel with a heart and lungs and a mind and call it a bargain. The human life would be archived, and the echo would gain a living tether. "You can't," Claire breathed. Michael's face was pale in the torchlight. He had the look of a man who had rehearsed the answer in sleepless nights and knew it was a terrible sacrament. "If I stay," he said, voice steady as stone, "you get to keep your life." You get to finish your work. You get to free what we can free. The house gets a voice to call its own. It won't make another bargain. Claire's fingers closed into her palm until the nails bit. No. Janice sobbed in the yard like someone rending a shawl into two pieces. Reed swore, helpless and furious. The Echo Natalie stepped forward. You can't outrun pattern, she said softly. You cannot stop the ledger with a dim torch. Michael turned to Claire with a look that knifed straight through the fear and the grief. You can keep the tapes, Claire, he said. You can take them into town and catalog them. You can make sure no one else plays them like a destiny. You can tell the stories. You can keep the voices human. Claire's throat closed around bile and an answer she didn't want. Don't you dare, she whispered. You're not. He was already moving. He stepped into the smoke where the echoes rose and wrapped themselves in memory like blankets. Michael, she cried. We can find another way. We can. He shook his head once, small and absolute. I know. I've tried. I can't stop it from wanting what it wants. I can keep it to one life rather than all of us. And then, with the last of the reels smoldering at his feet, he walked toward the house. Claire lunged forward. But the house's fog folded around him like fingers. He reached out and touched her hand for a heartbeat, a touch that said everything without words. Then he turned and walked through the threshold where the machine's chest had been. The sound of voices rose, not the mechanized chorus but a single, very human sound as the house accepted its tithe. The Echo Natalie folded into him like a moth folding into light. Claire screamed. The world tipped. Janice grabbed her, shaking. Reed beat his fists on the back door and howled into the night like a man who had lost something he'd never owned. The real room's metal groaned and then fell silent. The motor was dead. The reels blackened and crumpled wherever the torch had touched them. The echoes, the ones that had taken shape, slumped and dissolved into the wet ground like paper left in rain. But in the place where Michael had stood, a faint audio shimmer hovered, a single reel turning slowly, a single voice filling the air like a bell. Claire. It was his voice, folded with echo, carried with the husk of the house's appetite. It said her name and it lingered like smoke. Claire sank to her knees, the night turning to a pinhole around her. Her hands clawed for the torch and the last embers of the pile. She had wanted to end the ledger. She had wanted to stop the house from writing people into its margins. Instead, the house had traded one man for a chance at final silence. She felt the weight of the choice settle into her chest like winter. She had not chosen this, she had not been asked. But she had watched a man lay his life down like a sacrament so she could walk away. Through tightened eyes she watched the house's dark windows. Inside, she thought she could see a faint flicker, and for a heartbeat she imagined, and desperately hoped, that Michael's voice would be somewhere else, not trapped, not stolen, but where it could still be heard in a human room. She knew then two facts that would orient the rest of her life. The Murray house could be silenced, but not without a cost. Whatever price the house demanded would always be chosen by someone who loved someone else enough to bear it. Claire wrapped her arms around herself and crawled to the car as the first blue lights of a patrol vehicle swept past on the distant road. The siren might be coming to investigate the bonfire, it might be coming to stop them. She didn't know. She only knew that Michael was inside the place he had once called home and that the house, for now, was quieter. She had one last thing to do before the dawn. She dug in her duffel, found the labeled reel she had made that first night, Claire Murray, beginning February 10, 2025, and put it into her pocket. Her hands shook. Her breath wrenched. She spoke to the cold, to the pile of ruined tape, to the dark windows that watched like lids. "I will finish this," she promised hoarsely. "I will free them. I will not let this be the last ledger." The house listened. For a long, imperious moment, it did nothing. Then, as if in concession or in threat, a single thin sound leaked from inside, Michael's voice saying, soft and close and impossible, "Remember me." Claire's lips formed the promise that would push the rest of the story forward. "Always," she whispered. Part 7, Ledger and After. Chapter 22, The Sound of an Empty Room. They found Michael by dawn. Not in the way Claire had prayed, not alive on the kitchen floor, calling her name, but as something more complicated and cruelly precise. Sheriff's deputies arrived while the embers still smoldered and took statements. Reed stood with a bandaged hand and a face like a man who'd been given a debt he could never repay. Janice held Claire like a loose thing that might fall apart. Mac wandered the edge of the yard with a paper cup of coffee, a quiet gravity in his eyes. At first the deputies said what Claire wanted, that Michael had been seen leaving with them, that he'd been taken to the hospital for smoke inhalation, that he had not simply vanished into the house. Then, in a second interview, when the deputies reviewed the backyard footage, the town cameras were old but blunt truths sometimes hid in such things, the tape showed Michael step into the doorway and stop. He looked back once, a gesture caught in 3 grainy frames, then walked through. But once he crossed the threshold, the frame blurred, not a trick of cheap video, the pixels smeared into static and the sound on the clip turned into a thin, high keening. When the deputy rewound and played it again, the moment yielded nothing but noise. "Electronics don't lie," Reed said, jaw tight. This one refuses." Claire watched the screen until her eyes stung. The house sat in the background like a thing that had swallowed the sun. Later, in a small interview room at the sheriff's office, Claire listened as Sheriff Greeley, a man with 2 big hands and a practiced sympathy, tried to find words. "We did everything protocol asks," he said. "We have evidence of forced entry. We have a neighbor who reported a bonfire. We have eyewitnesses. We do not have a body. We do not have a neat explanation." Claire realized the phrase belonged to him as a lifeline. Neat explanations were how people slept. Without them, nights unspooled into thinking they might be wrong about everything. She walked out into the chill and called Mac. He arrived in a little sedan with 2 steaming muffins in a paper bag. He handed her one without comment. "He's gone," Claire said flatly. Mac listened, his expression unreadable for a long beat. Then he said, quietly, "Sometimes the house takes what it needs, Claire. Sometimes it gives you an image to keep. We have Michael's voice. That's not nothing." Claire's hands tightened around the muffin. "His voice is part house now. Part echo. It called me from the real room after the burn. I heard him say my name." Mac nodded. "If voice persists, some part of him persists. But that part may be recorded and tethered. We can hear a person and not have them back." The world felt thinner that week. Reporters arrived in small waves, not national, but hungry local outlets and a regional paper that liked the serialized truth of a town that swallowed people. Winterview was both a curiosity and an embarrassment. Tourism dropped. The diner emptied in the afternoons. A hush settled like new snow. The task force, agencies with acronyms and clipped voices, took over the investigation. They interviewed Claire daily, then weekly. They swept the house with instruments that gave readings but no explanations. They cataloged the burned reels and found that the ash contained traces of magnetic oxide and, strangely, a residue that tests could not neatly classify. Their reports were polite and thick with caveats. Publicly, they could say only so much. Privately, their head of forensic audio, a woman named Dr. Elise Hargreaves, asked Claire to sit in a small anechoic room and listen to a reproduction of one of Michael's last recordings. The sound played back with an intimacy Claire had not expected, a laugh, a breath, a single sentence spoken into the real room as the torchlight danced. Claire. The voice trembled in the playback and then changed, as if an overlay of other syllables bent the cadence. Dr. Hargreaves tilted her head. "That's his voice," she said. "But something else is layered on it. There's a pattern the machine seems to have used to stitch human phonemes into a continuous presence. It's not just a recording. It's an enactment." Claire swallowed. "So he's both," she said. Dr. Hargreaves' reply was careful. "Possibly. We don't have a category for someone whose vocal patterns continue where their body does not." The county issued an official notice, a restricted property, with a cautionary line advising residents not to enter the Murray house. The house, for all practical purposes, became a sealed node on a map people preferred to avoid. But that map was not the story Claire had inherited. A sealed building with a metal barricade did not undo the ledger waiting on her hard drive. Michael's sacrifice, real, willed, and uncomprehending in the way of any human act pushed to the edge, carved a new line into her life. The house had answered with a price, the ledger demanded a response. Chapter 23, Cataloging the Dead. Claire quit her job before the week closed. It was not an act of sudden romanticism. It was a small, necessary arithmetic. She could work 2 jobs and never afford the time to unspool what she owed the town. She rented a simple office above Mac's library and installed the battered reel-to-reel machine the way Natalie had once maintained it. The county allowed supervised access to the house's remaining archives, a custody arrangement that read like a promise and a warning. She began the ledger in earnest. Every tape got a line in a spreadsheet, date, location recorded, voices present, anomalies noted, emotional valence. She cross-referenced town records, obituaries, missing person reports. Where audio matched a missing person, she flagged it. Where a voice returned with a future phrase, she circled it. The work grew into an obsession that felt less like compulsion than duty. She interviewed families who had come to the gym during the aftermath and asked them questions, not sensational ones, but small, precise prompts. What did they carry the night they vanished? Who did they like to sit beside at the fair? Did they say anything strange before going missing? She collected grocery lists, birthday cakes, the names of pets, the ordinary scaffolding of a life. The ledger revealed patterns. Most disappearances clustered near the lake. The times showed odd clustering in the pre-dawn hours. A few voices in the archive were young, a few were old, some were arguments that ended mid-syllable. The house's recordings did not only keep people who had vanished, they kept the moments before disappearance, the last sentences, the unfinished apologies. One reel, dated 1997, contained a woman's voice, clear, cold, precise, saying, "Don't listen to the house when it speaks your name." The date matched a disappearance 3 weeks later. The woman on the tape was never found. Claire printed the line, taped it above her desk, and let it behave like a compass. She also began to leave short, humane messages on some reels as she archived them. "We hear you," she wrote on the first page of the spreadsheet. "We will not let you be only a ledger." At night, she would sit in the small office with the reel machine idling and listen. Michael's voice would come periodically, a clarifying syllable, a laugh that wove with the grain of the tape. Sometimes, when the sky was clear over Winterview and the lake lay like an urn, Claire swore she could hear additional voices threaded under his, whispers of, "Remember me, finish, please." She knew Michael had made a choice. He had traded a life still breathing for a chance at stopping the ledger's appetite. Whether his sacrifice worked in the way she wanted, whether it bought them days, years, or only a moment of silence, was not yet clear. But what she wrapped herself in was resolve, a long, patient work of gathering names so that voices would be returned to people rather than prisons. Chapter 24, The Last Shoreline Note. One evening, when the summer heat softened and lake mosquitoes rose like tiny punctuation marks, Claire received a call from Mac. He sounded thin and careful. "You should come down," he said. "Now." Claire drove to the dock as fast as the narrow road allowed. The sun was low, a wide spill of orange. The town had a respectful distance from the shore now. People walked their dogs further inland and left the dock alone. At the very end, where the wood met water, an object lay on the planks, a small, battered tin box sealed with a strip of rusted wire. Claire crouched and opened it with shaking hands. Inside was one cassette, a fresh tape, unlabeled, the plastic unmarked and warm, as though it had only just been recorded. Her thumb brushed the spool. A slip of paper was tucked inside. A single line. "Do not listen alone." Beneath it, in tighter script, M. Michael. Claire pressed the tape to her chest for a long moment. The dock creaked. The lake breathed. She had a ledger now, a promise, and a last note from a man who had become both memory and martyr. She slipped the cassette into her pocket. The house listened, somewhere across the lawn, and perhaps this time it understood that someone had begun to count. Part 8, The Final Recording. Chapter 25, The Lake That Breathes in Sentences. The tin box sat on Claire's desk for 3 days before she dared to play the tape inside. Not out of fear, but because she understood now. Every tape was a contract. Every voice she played entered her, became part of her ledger, part of her work, part of her burden. Reed dropped by once, leaving a bag of tools at her door without knocking. Janice brought a thermos of soup and said nothing, just squeezed Claire's arm. Mac sent her 3 local history books, each tagged with sticky notes. Winterview had learned a strange grief, the kind that treated silence like respect. Finally, on the evening of the 4th day, when the sky turned the color of spilled ink and the first cicadas began their insistence, Claire placed the cassette in the recorder. Before she pressed play, she whispered, "Michael, please don't let this be a goodbye." The tape whirred. Static. A soft inhale. Then his voice. "Claire, if you're hearing this, then I'm not where I hope to be." Her throat tightened. Michael continued. "The house is quieter now. But the lake remembers everything the house forgets." Static. "I've heard them down here, voices below water. They aren't trapped the way people think. They're unfinished. Echoes without homes." Claire felt tears gather but held still, listening. "You can still free them," Michael said. "But you have to finish what Natalie started." Her breath caught. You have to find the first recording. Claire's pulse shook. Static. The recording the house made on its own. Static again. Then. It's at the bottom of Lake Meran. The tape clicked off. Claire stared at the recorder, cold creeping up her arms. She replayed the last sentence 6 times. The bottom of Lake Meran. Where sonar never mapped. Where people vanished. Where echoes came from. Where the house took Michael. She pressed her forehead to her palms. No, she whispered. I can't go in there. I can't. But the decision didn't belong to fear. It belonged to obligation. To Michael. To Natalie. To Henry Tollin. To every missing Winterview name in her ledger. She lifted her head. Her voice steadied. I'm finishing the work. Chapter 26, Preparations for Descent. Claire didn't go alone. Reed refused to let her. Janice came too, carrying a first aid kit with trembling hands. Mac insisted on staying on the shore, monitoring with an old police radio and a deep grief etched into his gentle eyes. They met at dawn, when the lake was quietest, its surface smooth as glass, its air heavy with pine and unspoken things. Reed pulled 2 dry suits from the back of his truck. They're old, he said, but they'll hold. I'll go with you. Claire shook her head. No. Michael said I have to finish this. He didn't say, we. If the house or lake needs a sacrifice, I'm not letting it take someone else. Reed's jaw nodded. Then loosened. He pressed a hand to her shoulder. But Janice stepped forward. No one goes alone, she said. Even if I stay on the surface, I'm with you until you come up. Claire nodded gratefully. They dragged a small aluminum boat to the shoreline. Janice held a waterproof flashlight. Reed carried a grappling hook and emergency line. Claire held a reel-to-reel spool container wrapped in plastic, ready to receive whatever the first recording was. Mac watched from the shore, hands shaking as he gripped a worn book. Don't let the lake speak first, he warned. You speak to it. Claire frowned. What should I say? Your name, Mac whispered. Say it before it can. The boat drifted out. The morning light shimmered. The lake was silent. Too silent. Claire felt the weight of 1,000 lost voices pressing upward from below. She reached the center of Lake Meran, a place no local fished, no children swam, no adults lingered near. She inhaled once, twice. And dove. Chapter 27, Underneath the Ledger. The water was colder than logic. It felt alive, as if swimming through breath rather than liquid. The deeper Claire swam, the more the pressure tightened around her skull. Like someone whispering into her bones. She kicked downward, flashlight beam slicing through muted green-black. Images drifted past her, not real images, but impressions. A handprint. A child's laugh. A scream that never reached air. A woman calling a name with too much hope. Her limbs shook. Something brushed her ankle. She nearly choked. But when she shined the light downward, she froze. A structure emerged from the gloom. A house. Not full-sized, a shape of a house. As if Lake Meran held a memory of the Murray house, suspended in water. Like the house had a reflection that didn't belong to this world. Claire swam closer. Her heart hammered. Inside the submerged silhouette, dozens of faces flickered. Unfinished echoes. Voices trying to become bodies. She saw Henry Tolan, Marta, Sarah Bennett, Andrew, so many others. And in the center, Michael. Not whole, not gone, something between. A figure formed from vibrations and water, looking up at her with eyes that didn't reflect light. Claire. She reached toward him instinctively. But his form rippled with agony. Michael, she whispered into her regulator. He mouthed, no. She froze. His hand lifted, pointing deeper still. Claire turned the light downward and saw it. A reel-to-reel spool, huge and ancient, half buried in the silt. Its tape drifted like kelp, carrying faint whispers that vibrated through the lake. This was it. The first recording. The moment the house began listening. Claire reached for it. The lake pulsed. The echoes screamed silently around her. Michael's distorted voice strained. Take it, and run. Claire grabbed the spool with both hands. And the lake collapsed into chaos. Chapter 28, The Lake Fights Back. The water churned violently. Echoes swirled around Claire, voices trying to enter her, trying to slip into her memories. A child whispered, stay. A woman begged, finish my sentence. A man cried, take me with you. Their words jammed into her skull. Claire kicked upward, dragging the massive spool against buoyancy and current. The lake screamed, not in sound, but in vibration. Her flashlight flickered. Then a hand, cold, soft, non-physical, grabbed her wrist. Michael. He wasn't fully formed, flickering like a projection trapped between frames. But his touch felt real. He mouthed again. Go. Claire tried to pull him. He shook his head violently. Not me. Tears burned her eyes even underwater. She kicked with everything she had, bursting upward, lungs screaming, body shaking, spool dragging her down like an anchor. Just as her strength waned, a second hand grabbed her arm. Janice. She hauled Claire upward with terrifying determination, screaming into the water as though voice alone could fight the lake. Together they broke the surface. Claire gasped, reeled, collapsed into the boat. Janice sobbed with relief. Reed pulled them in, face white with fear. The lake's surface churned beneath them like boiling glass. Claire clutched the spool to her chest. And the lake went silent. Completely silent. A dead, heavy quiet. Chapter 29, The First Recording Speaks. Back on the shore, Claire carried the spool straight to her office. Mac locked the door behind them and pulled all blinds. Janice cried in a chair. Reed paced like an animal in a cage. Claire placed the spool onto the reel machine with trembling hands. This is it, Claire whispered. This is what started everything. She pressed play. Static. Then, a faint breath. Then, a woman's voice. Not Natalie's. Not Claire's. Someone older. Someone from before Winterview existed. If you are hearing this, then the house has learned to listen. Claire's heart pounded. This is the house I built, the woman continued. A home meant to keep voices alive after sickness took my family. Claire gasped. The house wasn't haunted by accident. It was designed to preserve voices, a grieving woman's invention gone terribly, cosmically wrong. But the house does not know the difference between keeping and taking, the recording said. It learns by repeating. It remembers by consuming. I tried to stop it, but it recorded me before I die. Janice sobbed softly. Mac whispered, "My God. If you find this real," the woman said, "destroy the house. Do not let it finish your story." The tape sputtered. Then, the lake is its memory. The house is its mouth. Your name is already. The reel snapped. Silence. No house. No lake. No future. Just silence. Chapter 30, the end of the ledger. They destroyed the house that night. Not with fire, fire wouldn't work. Not with explosives, the town would never allow it. They dismantled it piece by piece. Reed with the crowbar. Janice with trembling hands. Mac with a slow reverence. Claire with a grief deep enough to anchor her. As the walls fell, the lake stirred. But only faintly. As the roof collapsed, echoes drifted upward like dust. Then faded like morning breath. As the foundation cracked, a low hum rose. Then died. And when the final beam fell, the house exhaled one last time. A soft, gentle breath. And was gone. Chapter 31, After. Winterview changed. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But quietly. The lake became just a lake. The missing remained missing, but their voices no longer haunted the air. Claire kept every catalog. Every ledger. Every name. A year passed. Then too, she became a counselor at the local community center, specializing in grief, memory, and unresolved stories. People trusted her. Sometimes, when she walked by the docks at dusk, she thought she heard Michael's voice on the wind. Not tracked. Not echoing. Just remembering. One evening, Claire sat by the water with her notebook. A breeze brushed her cheek. And for the first time, not from a machine or a nightmare, she heard Michael's voice clearly, warmly. "You finished it." Claire whispered back. "I didn't finish it. I just walked it where you couldn't." The lake was quiet. The world was quiet. Her ledger was complete. And Claire, at last, was free. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.